Yes, good morning, everybody. I can see we've just let some familiar names and some not familiar names as much into the group. So welcome all. We just give it a couple of minutes just to get everyone in and settled and go through through a bit of the housekeeping rules as such. Not that there's too many. You'll see David, Chris, and Vic on screen as well, who are our speakers and part of the panel today. So yeah, we'll just give it a couple more minutes and let everyone come on board. You'll see in the chat box, everybody, that there's the help sort of information if you are struggling with technological problems in terms of sound or video, whatever it might be. As is always the way, it's usually a matter of turning it on and turning it off again, and normally it works okay with that. So we'll just wait for the last few people to come on, and we'll get started. So the question and answer box is open, which we'll come on to in a moment, but certainly after the presentations, myself and David and the team from HS2, Chris and Vic, will be chatting for a little bit around the project and obviously encourage as many questions as possible from you, the delegates. So I think we're all good to go, Grace. So welcome everyone to the Lichfield and Tamworth Chamber HS2 and Lichfield BID webinar on really how businesses in the Lichfield and Tamworth area can benefit from the HS2 and the project that is taking place across the Greater Birmingham area. My name's Chris Brewitt and I head up the chamber in Lichfield and Tamworth. I work closely with numbers of people on the call actually and on the panel today. So it's great to have you along to what is I've almost lost count of how many we've done now. There's such positive events, really, in a great way for us to showcase local business issues in this current crisis, which means we can't come to local venues in Lichfield city centre or Tamworth centre, wherever else it might be. In terms of the subject for today, we'll be welcoming Chris Humphreys in a moment, who's the Community Engagement Manager of HS2. He's been in the role for over 18 months now and covers engagement activities across Staffordshire for phase 1 and eventually phase 2 and 2A and further forward of the project. His role is really around local engagement with local councils, parish councils, community representatives and groups, and arranging engagement events and answering any queries that HS2 receives through the main help desk on the internet and through other means. We also have Vic Roberts, Business Engagement Manager at HS2. Again, similar role to Chris, only on the business side, so working with business organisations like the Chamber, but like many other local SMEs across the UK, really, and being that link between the contractors who are building the project and ensuring that local businesses are connected to the opportunity to get involved with HS2 and ultimately benefit from some of the opportunities within the project. We also have David Tomalin, a really good friend of mine and a really good I suppose cheerleader for Lichfield is probably for want of a better word, David, but as Lichfield BID manager, he represents over 500 businesses across Lichfield city centre and is really a sort of driving force of engagement and working with local partners to provide support to those businesses. And now more than ever, I know his role is vitally important, and the experience he has around that area, I'm sure will do well for Lichfield as well. So welcome all three of you. How are you all today? You okay?
Good, yeah, very good, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
Very good.
So we'll move on with the presentations in a moment. As said, we do have the question and chat bar on the right hand side of your screen as you look. If you have got any thoughts, any questions, anything you want to sort of add to the conversation during the presentations or during the Q&A following Chris and Vic's presentations, please put them in the chat box. Grace is here, who is sort of the worker behind the scenes, making sure this runs smoothly for us all. So she will put the questions up on screen following the presentations, and we'll sort of work into a Q&A, get David's thoughts on Lichfield in that regard, but also see where we can help with some of those questions to the HS2 team. That's all from me. A huge thanks again for all being involved in today's event. I will pass now over to Chris Humphreys, Community Engagement Manager at HS2, and he will take you through the first section of the webinar. Thank you.
Yep, good afternoon. Thanks very much for taking the time to join us and giving your time up today. Yeah, as Chris said, my name's Chris Humphreys. I'm Community Engagement Manager for HS2. I'll start off by providing sort of an overview of HS2 and an update on the works, and then I'll pass over to Victoria and she'll talk more about her role and local business opportunities. Just move the slides on. So, so when HS2 is built, I thought I'd just give a very quick overview of the route for those of you who might not be so familiar. But when it's built, HS2 will start at Euston Station, and it will make its way up to the Midlands via a purpose-built station at Old Oak Common, and then there's 2 other stations to be built, one at Curzon Street in Birmingham and one near the NEC. And that's part of phase 1 of the construction. And then phase 2A and 2B will see the railway connect to the east and west of the country. Eventually, HS2 will serve around 25 different stations across the UK. Stage 2A and 2B are in various parts of their parliamentary review, but HS2 phase 1, where I work, has been passed through Parliament. Phase 1 arrives in Staffordshire around the Drayton Bassett area, and then it will make its way through Hints, Weeford, Whittington, Street Hay, and then Fradley. Eventually, it will join the West Coast Main Line near Handsacre with Armitage, and then there's a spur off at Fradley where the 2A section of the railway will join, and there's also a section at Kingsbury, which will be where the 2B line starts eventually, and that will touch through parts of Staffordshire as well. So my role is to engage with communities and different community groups, and to help them understand sort of what's coming, when the work will be coming, how long it will take, what it will look like, that sort of thing. And we'll hold different events, we'll speak to different stakeholders. And increasingly, our contractors, Balfour Beatty Vinci, who are the main work contractors for phase 1, they will also start to engage and probably lead some of the engagement with local communities. So I work with people. There's a list on the side of the slide, but I work with people as well as the local communities and residents, like Highways England. So we use some of their network and will affect some of their network, like the A38, for example. I also work with primary schools, and we've recently, over the last 12 months or so, set up a focus group at Fradley Business Park, so they can understand the impact that our work might have on their business, so they can plan ahead if they need to, and possibly, depending on what Victoria can talk about later, possibly become involved in parts of the HS2 project. Okay, so a little bit of an update. Earlier this year, we had a couple of key milestones within HS2 that's enabled us to go into what we call the detailed design stage and also the construction stage. And what that means ultimately, the second point there, notice to proceed, was given to us by the government, and that really allows our contractors in this area, Balfour Beatty Vinci, to start awarding contracts to their subcontractors. Probably the best evidence of it locally is they're beginning to construct a compound just off Cappers Lane. So Balfour Beatty have got that contract and then awarded it to subcontractors. So work is already starting to take place in Cappers Lane. Previously, we had enabling works, and that would be things like vegetation clearance, but Balfour Beatty can now move on from the design stage to the detailed design and then building of the railway. So couldn't really speak today without mentioning the current situation that we're in with COVID-19. So many of our contractors have continued to work where it's safe to do so. So some measures have been taken, including the obvious social distance spacing in sort of welfare and working areas. But they have taken other measures as well. So in some of the working areas, they have wheel washes so that the vehicles are washed on the way in and on the way out. They've also installed, some of the contractors have installed thermal imaging, and so they take the temperature of the staff as they come into the workplace, and if the temperature of the staff is too high, they're asked to wait. The temperature's taken again, and if again it's still too high, then they're told to go home, and they're not allowed into the workplace. So they've been quite proactive. So that's for our contractors. HS2 have stopped face-to-face engagement, so that's why you're joining me in my dining room this afternoon. So we're trying to do what we can in terms of looking at different ways to engage. You know, really pleased to be able to join Chris and you guys today. There'll be a gradual reintroduction for HS2 to go back into the offices, but while we can work from home, then we will do. And then the next point on this slide is probably one of the key points for me to talk about. It's a great opportunity for us. So there are community and business-led funds that are available for HS2 across the route. So we've just topped, I think, £5 million worth of awards across the route. So that's London to the Midlands and Staffordshire. But interestingly, there's only 6 or so projects that have been located in Staffordshire. So just over £250,000 has been given to the Staffordshire area. But I mean, I live quite locally, so I've got an interest in Staffordshire being or seeing its fair share of the funds. And to give you an idea, we've recently had some funding given for the tennis courts at Beacon Park in Lichfield. The Wolseley Centre has had some funding, and then various parish councils like Kings Bromley and Whittington have also received funding. There is a page or a separate website actually purely for the funding, so I won't go into it too much today as to how to go about that funding. But on the last slide today, which Victoria will present, there is a link to the funding page, the Seth and Bleth Awards, and as well as showing you how you can apply, it also shows you some of or all of the awards that have been granted so far and gives you an idea of what those awards are. So the only thing I have to mention is that there is a business award, funding award, but it's actually not for individual businesses, it's for groups of businesses. So I would encourage people to look at the website, and in particular for yourselves, there was some funding given to Kenilworth. I think the project was called Kenilworth Open for Business, and a group of businesses came together, put together a bid, and was awarded an amount so that they could advertise the fact that Kenilworth and the businesses would still be open throughout the HS2 project. So that might be quite an interesting one to look at. So I'll just move on to give you an idea of the programme update. So the start of construction for HS2 begins with constructing the compounds. So these will be the areas that our contractors will work from, and there is one main compound in Lichfield, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we've had over the last few years actually vegetation clearance, creation of ecology sites in places like Hints and Fradley, and also archaeology trial trenching. So we've done some trialling up in Fradley, or just behind Fradley Park, near where the old airport was. We've also had some trialling just off Cappers Lane, and as I say, down in Hints. I think we're doing some there at the moment. The route of HS2 passes through Street Hay, and it goes 18 metres under the A38, which is a major piece of construction in the area. And then it goes after that, sort of between the back of Fradley Park and the new Roman Heights site, if people know where that is, and then on towards Wood End Lane. And HS2 goes from that 18-metre cutting onto some viaducts, so that's quite a tricky piece of engineering and quite a big construction piece of work, and most of that will be led from the Cappers Lane site. So when we've got a programme from our contractors, we don't yet know exactly when they'll be starting which piece of work and how long it will all take. So when we've got that information, that's the stage of work that Balfour Beatty Vinci are doing at the moment. So when we've got that information, we'll come back out to our stakeholders and can absolutely update Chris and David and yourselves with what's going on, and we'll be able to provide, as I say, more information a little bit closer to the time. We'll probably do public exhibitions as well, and we'll invite stakeholders and businesses to that. So just a little bit about what's been going on in the area and the Cappers Lane compound. So we have created a haul road directly from the A38 just after the Street Hay turning, so it's southbound, and this will enable us to take HGV deliveries straight off the A38 and into our compound when it's built. So that'll take an awful lot of traffic out of Lichfield and stop us from needing to go through Street Hay or come off the A38 in the opposite direction. So that has taken place. It took about 9 months to construct, and as well as the haul road, I'm not sure if you can see the cursor, but we've created 2 sections, one either side of the West Coast Main Line, and as well as the haul road, there are connecting roads inside that compound, and there are also hard standing areas. And over that 9 months, we had over 10,000 HGV vehicle movements. And the reason I bring that up is because I know that traffic's a concern in the area. And out of those sort of 10,000 HGV movements, I think we only actually had about half a dozen complaints, and 2 or 3 of those were from people who lived in Street Hay. And the complaints were for non-HGV related traffic, but still HGVs going through Street Hay whilst there was a closure on the A38. So we do try and minimise the impact on local communities wherever possible, and the construction of the haul road will be key to that. So we do need to set that haul road up, and we need to build the compound where it will house offices. There'll be no on-site living accommodation, so people will be travelling there sort of daily, and we'll have security on site. The reason for mentioning that there won't be any sort of on-site living accommodation is that I know that there was for the M6 toll road, and you know, with on-site living accommodation come other issues now and again. So there is no on-site accommodation here, but we will have quite a big workforce in the area, between 200 and 400 staff. So they will need, and I'm sure Victoria will go into it, they'll need feeding, they will need car MOTs, they'll need haircuts like me. So there's opportunities for different types of businesses, but Victoria can talk to you a little bit more about that. So in terms of what's happening locally at the moment, I mentioned that we have some archaeology and ecology work. So in Drayton Bassett, there's ecological mitigation. So we're planting some trees. We're making sure that there are sites for things like newts. In Hints, we're creating a new bat house. We're doing some more planting and habitat creation. There's also an archaeology site in Hints as well. So we'll be basically digging trenches to see what we can find there. The same will also happen up near Wood End Lane as well. And then over the last few days, actually, Street Hay, or just by Street Hay on the A38 southbound has been down to 1 lane just while we finish off some signage. But in terms of work locally, the next thing to happen is the beginning of July, where Cappers Lane will be closed for a week, and that will be on the part of Cappers Lane when you've gone under the bridge for the A38 and heading towards Huddlesford, and that's so we can find a sewer pipe and then take the pipe into the compound area to then allow us to have those facilities. So so that's an overview of sort of what's going on currently. I'll pass over to Victoria to talk to you about her role and about local businesses. But what I would say is that at the end of this presentation, again, along with the site for the community and business funding, there will be a link to a site for the local Staffordshire website, which is where we put all of our information of the work that's going on and how long it's going on for. And you can sign up to that. And if you do, you'll get alerts, which will show you sort of where the work's going on and how long it will take. But I'll pass you on to Victoria.
Thank you, Chris. Wonderful. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
To get that local awareness of the project itself. And yes, if there are any questions, any thoughts on that, please either put them in the chat bar as we go through, or when the Q&A is open after Victoria's presentation, ask away. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it, and I like the note about the hair at the end. That's what I saw your hair. Thanks very much, and I'll pass over to Vic now. So Vic obviously works from the business point of view on the business engagement side of the project. I'm sure there's some interesting things for Vic to take you through. So Vic, over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris, and hello everyone. So as you've heard from Chris now, he's given you that kind of overview of the contractors, so that's BBV, who are working in this area, and some of the activity that's being taken on at this stage of the programme. So I'm now going to give you a bit more of an insight into this activity and what that means for local businesses, and the opportunities and all the different ways that you could potentially get involved and benefit from HS2 being in your area. So firstly, I just want to start by looking at our supply chain, so how we work and how we're looking to work with local businesses to help build the railway. So each of the large contracts that are awarded, there will be kind of thousands of opportunities for businesses further down the supply chain. So there'll be around 400 supply chain contract opportunities for UK businesses just for phase 1, and around 2/3 of those are going to be for SME businesses. So as we've now got that notice to proceed, which was that kind of all go to build the construction, that means that our contractors are really starting to ramp up their activity and mobilising the supply chain and the sites. And so all the opportunities for the suppliers and services that they need to do that work are starting to materialise. So as an organisation, and part of my role and why I'm here is to make sure that we maximise the benefits the project can bring to the local communities and businesses where we're working. And so that's making sure that businesses within the areas that we're constructing the railway can get involved and benefit. So locally, we're already using around 1,000 businesses who sit next to the line of route, and that's over half of our current supply chain. And so looking even more locally, around 300 businesses in the West Midlands have already got involved in HS2, and around 85% of those are SME businesses as well. So you can see some examples on the slides of some of the businesses. That we've got. So on the top right, you've got a construction company called TRD. So they're a small business firm who were doing some demolition work for us on the Birmingham site. And they were supported by Kirsty from Jericho Wood Recycling, who are also Birmingham based. And they are a kind of social enterprise that were taking away the wood from the site to reuse and recycle within the community, and supporting kind of vulnerable people getting back into work. So that's a really nice piece of kind of down the supply chain involvement. And then on the top left, you've got Kai from Trinity Assets and his team. And so they work as a accommodation provider in the area. And so they were working with the kind of site managers around the area to kind of promote their business to the workers who were in the sites. And so they're seeing their business grow and develop as a result of HS2 workers looking for accommodation. And then on the bottom right, we've got Chris from GD Printing. So he's been providing the printing services for newsletters, notifications, maps, and design drawings for the enabling works contractors. And they've now recently just got that work for the main works contract as well in certain areas. So there's a big range of businesses there and lots of different ways in which they can get involved. So looking a bit more kind of closely, you can see that there's a big shopping list of all different types of things that we'll be needing. And they really are a big range of things outside of kind of what you would typically think of when you think about a construction company. So creative services, there's things like photographers, printers, and signage companies. Then we look at food and catering. So not only that's not only like kitchens and setups on the site, but that's also mobile caterers coming to sites, but also that event, meeting, catering, and then that piece of work around, you know, feeding the workers on their lunch breaks and just supporting them being in the area and going out for meals together. So lots of opportunities there. And then again, accommodation. So accommodation could be, some of it will be on site, but obviously Chris has mentioned already that the Cappers Lane site in Lichfield won't have that on-site accommodation. So with that brings lots of opportunity for local kind of accommodation providers to kind of promote their business to the HS2 workers who will be in their area for quite a few years in cases. So that's another opportunity to kind of get involved there. Then there's employee services, which cover things like those working in the area on the road, the things that those working in the railway will be looking for. So that's from health and wellbeing needs, so gyms and dentists. Then there's the hairdressers, which Chris already pointed out. And also just places to spend time with their families who will be coming to the area to see them. And then there's the transport and logistics. So that's anything from, you know, traffic management and kind of large scale site transport, but also to services such as, you know, taxi services that we'll need to for the local people to kind of use on and off the site. Then we've got trade and construction. So they're all the supplies and things that we might need to build the railway, but also to set up the construction compounds. So they're building materials, electricals, plumbing, all those sorts of things that you can imagine we'd need to both set up the site, but also to build the railway. And finally, there's all the things that site services. So they're things like cleaners, soft landscaping, waste management, site security. And within that, there comes lots of small opportunities to get involved within those contracts as well. So some of these opportunities will come directly through our tier 1 contractors, which was BBV, whereas others will come through their subcontractors and so on and so forth, depending on the type of business and service that you supply, also the type of contract and the scale of that contract as well. Slide. So looking at these kind of wide range of services and supplies, it also brings with it different ways in which you could get involved throughout the supply chain. So that's from bidding and winning full framework contracts to regular purchase orders and worker choice. So that's just letting us know about the offer of your business. So I think it's important to think about your business and how it might sit within our supply chain, and it really will depend on the type of service and supply that your business can offer. So as with all major projects, if we're looking at the contractor piece, they are all competitively tendered. So we make sure that that process is transparent and fair. So all our opportunities are advertised on Compete For, so there's an opportunity for any business to get involved. But because of the scale and reach of HS2, one of our goals is to leave a positive legacy in the industry. So that's raising the bar on things like health and safety, equality and diversity, and our environmental impact. So this means that when you're going through that process, there's, depending on the level of your contract, there will be things that we'll be looking for to demonstrate how you as a business can help us reach some of those targets and those aspirations. But I don't want that to put you off, because again, these aspirations reflect the type of contract and its value. And we'll continue to kind of share further information and support on some of these key topics. So we've got this upcoming programme that focuses on these areas and the procurement process starting next week, next Wednesday. And there's also lots of other support and advice available for businesses, and we kind of take you through that process. So if you're interested, our suppliers and HS2 will help you kind of get the things that you might need in place, rather than expecting you to just necessarily have them all ready to go. I also wanted to note as well that all HS2 main works contractors have signed up to the HS2 Fair Payment Charter, so have their Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. So that's to ensure that, you know, fair payment principles are adopted, and that everybody gets fair, kind of timely, and there's a transparent payment process. So something that we really recognise is particularly important for smaller businesses. And as a standard, I think it's around 30 days a standard, but then depending on the contract and the terms, it can be shorter, it can be longer, and that's obviously upfront and transparent for those getting involved and agreeing those terms. So I also don't want to underestimate the opportunities for local businesses to get involved outside of this formal contract world. So when you think about the workers and the contractors who will be working on those sites, they will be needing kind of ad hoc and also regular smaller supplies and services, which they would actually get through purchase orders. So this would be things like event and meeting space, some catering, so videography, specific signage or specific printing needs. So making sure that the business engagement team, so myself and the contractors, know about your business is really important. So if we know that your business is here and understand what it can offer, it means that when we're looking for something in the market, we already have a list of local businesses that can potentially provide that. We can get in touch with you proactively and talk about whether that's something that you would be able to offer, and then kind of look at what solutions we can find. So by letting us know about your business, it's kind of putting you on that list, it's putting you on that radar, so that we don't have to kind of search the market without knowing what's there locally already, and that whoever, other businesses you've expressed an interest, you're getting that kind of heads up, I suppose. And then finally, at peak construction, we're going to need 30,000 people to build and design the railway. And again, Chris has mentioned that around 200 to 400 people will be on the site at Cappers Lane, just outside Lichfield. So all those people will need places to stay, somewhere to eat, somewhere to go and spend their weekends, somewhere to buy products, get their hair cut. So offering services to our workers and letting us know what your business can offer is a really important way to help us support local businesses. So obviously much of this activity will be on pause a little bit at the moment because of the current pandemic. But as restrictions are lifted and it's safe to do so, we'll really start to encourage our kind of workers to go out and support the local high streets, the local businesses, to help kind of with that rebound and recovery, I suppose. So, thinking locally as, the Lichfield as a town centre, there's lots of businesses there that can benefit from the HS2 workers being in the area. And so our kind of job is to make sure that we know what businesses are out there, so tell us what you offer, and so that we can make sure that we then transfer that into the workers on the site. We get information into the site compounds about Lichfield, about the businesses in Lichfield, where they can go, where they can visit, so that businesses can so the workers, when they're kind of in the the canteen or having a rest in the staff room, they can see all that information and go out and use the businesses. So I also just wanted to touch a little bit on what information we've got from our main works contractors. I think I missed a slide, sorry. So these are some of the specific opportunities that Balfour BT Vinci will be going out over the next few months looking for. So I'm not going to go through this whole list. We can share the slides afterwards for everyone who's interested. But within these, there'll be lots of other sub-supplier opportunities as well. So where some of these will be various size contracts, there will be smaller contracts within that. So I just wanted to mainly flag the information on this page. So these are some of the tier 1 contractors that have already come on board with Balfour Beatty Vinci, and these are some of the things that they're out looking for now. So you can see on this list there's things like fencing, street furniture, signage, various material supplies and drainage, plastic drainage, street furniture, office supplies under Buckingham Group, and there's some contact details for you to kind of directly get in touch with them if it's something that's of interest to your business. Then we've got Vinci Facilities. So under there's lots of things I'll need. So the cleaning services, the security, the waste, fire services. So a lot of that is all around setting up the sites and the construction compounds. And again, there's a contact directly with the person who is looking for those things to get in touch with and I guess share your offer with them. And then there's VGC, so they're looking for things like PPE as well, and there's another contact there. So we can share those contacts with businesses afterwards if you are interested. And as more and more of these contractors come on board with BBV, that's where there'll be more and more of these this detail that we'll be able to share with you across the network, using the networks of the BID and the Chamber. So top tips kind of on getting ready for HS2. So I know that there's a lot of information that I've gone through, and there's a lot of opportunities, and it can be hard to know where to start. So I think these are some of the key things that we kind of draw out to kind of help you, I guess, make that next step. So I think the first one as a local business is to put yourself on the map. So we're looking to encourage and drive the involvement of local businesses in the areas that we're working with. So by registering with us on the business engagement team page, what happens is your details and the offer of your business get shared with our contractors and our their subcontractors, so they understand what it is that local business communities can offer, and that they, when they are looking for services and supplies, you're kept in the loop. And this is particularly important in that world of kind of purchase order and worker choice, because we'll use that information of what the registered businesses to share with the workers on site as well. So that's kind of a key area to make sure you sign up there. As I mentioned earlier, the contract opportunities will be advertised on the market and competitively tendered for, and that will be through Compete For. So if you're interested in that formal supply chain world, make sure you sign up. It's completely free. And once you've signed up and created your business profile, you'll get tailored alerts that link to opportunities that you'd be interested in as a business. And I just flagged there that as part of this webinar program that I mentioned earlier, with the first session is on the procurement process and gives you a bit more detail and support about kind of tips of bidding for work for HS2, what the process is, how you get involved and where you need to go. And then the following one is a speaker from Compete For, who will be going through the platform, how to use it, how to get the most out of it. So again, I'd encourage you to sign up to those two, particularly in that if you're looking into that space. They'll be really helpful to kind of help you kind of make the most out of those opportunities that come through. So next, as Chris mentioned earlier, you can kind of keep up to date with activity and works in the area through our community websites. So make sure you sign up to the HS2 and Staffs one, and that's where you'll get updates on and notifications of what's coming up in the area, as well as kind of engagement events where you can come along and ask questions. So that'll help you understand what's going on in the area, and if you're a business that works around the A38, it'll help you kind of plan maybe some of your activity around any kind of potential impacts that there might be. I'd also make sure that you familiarise yourself with HS2's kind of principles and values. So a lot of these are reflected in our requirements. So things like the health and safety, the environmental standards that we look to, and that will help you stand out when you kind of bid for work, and help you kind of demonstrate the strengths that businesses, often smaller businesses, have over bigger businesses around that innovation, that flexibility, that efficiency of working, the kind of low environmental impacts, all those things which can really help you through that process. And make sure you use the online resources that are available. So we've got the Supply Chain Sustainability School as one resource. It's completely free. You can sign up there and you get training and learning modules on certain key areas that are important. So say EDI, sustainability, and then you can gain certificates that are recognised by us, by our contractors within that procurement process, that will help you then make the most of any opportunity that you can get involved with and help you get through that process. And then finally, there's lots of support from the local business organisations, such as the Chamber, such as Chris. They might be able to help you in kind of developing and upskilling your business. So I'd encourage businesses to talk to the local business groups and see what they can offer you. And we work very closely with them. So if they're getting inquiries and there's an area which is a common theme that businesses want to talk about, then we can come in and help answer all those questions as a group together. So I think hopefully that's provided you with a bit of insight on the types of opportunities, different ways that you can get involved, and some of the key takeaways to look at if you're interested. So these are some of the key links that we talked through. The top one is the registering for your local business. So make sure you kind of put yourself on the map there. The third one down is the Work With Us Wednesday webinar program that I mentioned. And that's where you can find out more about that contractor world space, if that's something your business is interested in. There's the funds link on there, as well as the HS2 in Staffordshire, so where you can sign up to get alerts on the work. So thank you very much, and I'll pass back to Chris.
Thanks, Vic. Wonderful. Thanks, Victoria. I really appreciate that. And again, yeah, good to get a clear sort of idea from that, and it really focuses the mind when you're sat in front looking at the webinar to engage in some of those areas. So that's brilliant. Well, no, thanks everybody. Obviously, we have people on the webinar. If you have got any questions, I think Grace is going to put those up on the screen should you have any questions. I'll start off the discussion and obviously bring David in first and foremost. One of the reasons why I really wanted to work with David on this webinar with Lichfield BID is, of course, his connection to Lichfield Town Centre, of which is or city centre, I should say, which is the closest area to that. David, just give us an insight. Obviously, it's a big change for the high street at the moment. How important are some of these projects potentially to some of your members and some of your businesses, and how important do you think it is for them to engage? You're on mute, David. David, can you hear us? We can't hear you, David, I'm afraid. Okay. I'll move that up just while David logs in and logs out potentially. Vic, yeah, if you could just give us an idea of that side of things and how important it is that in other areas of the project where we've seen businesses really benefit.
Yeah, so I think the key is looking at Lichfield and the centre, and then there's being the main compound of Cappers Lane right outside the centre. With once kind of that site really gets up and running, there's going to be a lot of people working on that site, and so I think there's a real opportunity for Lichfield as kind of the high street businesses to kind of make the most of that opportunity and really kind of promote the offer of Lichfield to the workers who will be on that site. So how we do that, we can making sure they register, we share all that information. There's also that the BLEF funding, so the business funds, where businesses can come together and think, okay, is there something we can do more of a kind of that marketing piece? And I think it's particularly important, obviously, in this world of kind of recovery after COVID-19, with everything opening up again, to really start to drive the businesses and people into the centre of Lichfield. So there's lots of opportunities in that space for people to benefit. And I think there's in other areas, say around Camden and Euston, where there's been a lot of HS2 activity for some time. So some of the areas where they've been really quite impacted, the businesses have really pushed and offered things like vouchers or loyalty cards to promote HS2 workers, construction staff. They've done, a lunchtime special on a Wednesday, those sorts of things that, they're the things that the business, the people on the site are looking for, and they've kind of tailored their offer of their business to kind of maximise the opportunity that they can from those businesses being in the area. And I think that's been really successful. And they've also just done a lot of kind of promotion and activity, leaflets, the food festivals. I know Lichfield does a great one. I live in Lichfield, so I'm always at all these events. So all those sorts of things, making sure that we promote that to the workers and the construction sites. And there's lots of office staff that will also be on those sites as well, coming and going. So there's lots of people to get involved in all different areas there. Yeah.
Absolutely, no, that's great. And I see we've got a question from Sarah Gill. We'll come on to that in a moment. Sarah, just check. David, are you back with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
There we go. Marvelous. We're all good. Yes, so we'll come up. We'll just bring you, David, in for a moment. I think you heard my question, okay? About around the Lichfield Centre, and then we'll come on to Tamworth because I've got a few questions on that along with Sarah's question. So fire away.
I do think it's vital for businesses to really engage with a potential opportunity that is sitting on their doorstep. I think that let's be honest. The impact that COVID-19 has had on businesses has been tremendous. However, I'm encouraged and inspired by businesses who really have been agile and have changed the way that they operate their business in order to work within the constraints that they now find themselves. So, I just think they've been amazing, and I think they've really risen to a challenge. And I think it would be absolute stupidity to ignore the potential opportunity of 200 to 400 people who are going to be based locally, who could absolutely come into Lichfield or Tamworth city centre, and we want them to come into Lichfield. We want to welcome them as and when we're able to, and clearly very sensibly. But those businesses can clearly take advantage, and I love that shopping list because it's very human. They are the day-to-day things that people need. A haircut, they need something to eat, they might want something to drink, they might want a fantastic cup of coffee. That's exactly what Lichfield can offer them. And I encourage all businesses to remember that you can't afford to miss these opportunities that are currently here and now, or coming along, because who knows what's around the corner. And it's vitally important we ensure that any economic opportunity is taken advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, I agree. And bring it on to Sarah's question around the Tamworth side. Obviously, I know there's a further project that will be taking place, around the 42, and in a similar sense nearer to Tamworth than the people that are there. But I think, certainly geographically wise, Tamworth certainly isn't far, and I know Sarah's business very well, and certainly from an accommodation point of view, that would be a good one. If I could just pass that to Victoria, just to give your thoughts on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tamworth is close to both kind of the sites and activity that's happening around Lichfield, but also in the Birmingham direction. So there's obviously the supply chain opportunities to get involved there as kind of suppliers and service providers, and then there's also Tamworth as a place to visit. They're going to be here for a while. They're going to be looking for things to do. So again, it's not far away. Obviously, Tamworth is near to the 2B section or proposed route, but obviously that's much further behind in terms of planning and getting people on site. But they're near enough to be benefiting from the phase one. So I'd encourage more businesses from that area to start to engage with us and start to have those conversations and see how they can get involved, because they can benefit from both phase one and phase 2B when that comes round. So if they get in early, they can kind of really get that double benefit. So the more businesses that we can engage with, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for that question. Very much appreciated. Sarah,
can I just add a point?
Go on, Chris. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mention it in the presentation because it wasn't sort of Staffordshire specific, if you like, but there'll also be quite a large compound near Kingsbury. So obviously Kingsbury itself is close to Tamworth. So going back to Sarah's question, absolutely, there'll be people commuting reasonably locally but into the site. So it would be a bit daft perhaps to assume that everybody will be living in and around Lichfield. So, you know, we've got the potential to travel in from, you know, Burntwood direction, from Branston and that sort of area. And, you know, I'm sort of more Aldridge based, but it's 15-20 minutes into Lichfield. So so we, as well as having these main compounds, we'll also have satellite compounds where people will work from as well. But we've kind of just focused today, or I did, on the larger area. And if I can just add as well, 200 to 400 people for some, 200 to 400 construction workers for some people, it could be a bit of a shock. And it's just to say that there'll be a mix of people working from those sites. We'll have project managers, we'll have engineers, yes, we'll have labourers on site, of course, but there'll be a wide range of people working from that site. So it's not just going to be 400 construction staff.
Yeah, that was a point I was going to make, was I suppose the staff numbers are there, yeah, that's a number, but there's going to be an aspect of other people visiting the site from other areas, from staying away. So I suppose while that figure is total numbers, the actual number of actual people was probably quite a lot higher in terms of the change of staff and the different types of people that are coming in and out, I suppose.
Absolutely. And the way we would plan for them to work when we build the station is to use the line of the route as almost like a haul road. Yeah. So moving away from sort of the business side of it for a second, and talking about numbers of people and how we would get around Lichfield, Staffordshire, Tamworth area to build the railway, it will be to use the route as something like a haul road. So we're not using the local roads. So yes, they'll come back to site for, you know, a shower and some food, etc. And they'll start the day there and they'll finish the day there. But sometimes they will move on to different locations. So they, you know, when they can, they will get up to Fradley Park, but using the route of the railway as a haul road, if that makes sense. But I just wanted to sort of mention those two things, that yes, absolutely, Tamworth's commutable, and it will be a mix of people working from that site, from office staff to project managers to some construction staff as well.
Brilliant. No, thanks, Chris. Thank you. No, that's good. No. You know much more about it than me. So really appreciate that insight. Really important. I see a comment there from Dawn. So positive news for local businesses, and Dawn's based in Cudworth, which is local to here. So hopefully she can get onto that portal and get some information on there. I think I think, as you say, it just shows that the breadth of the project, that there's going to be lots of businesses from lots of different areas. If there are any other questions, please put them in the site. I can see one possibly coming in from Ross. So just while we're waiting for that one, I was keen to pick up on. You mentioned the Fradley Business Park focus group, Chris. Just tell us a bit more about that. I know there's been some meetings. It's probably 12 months ago now, isn't it? And how important is that for the economy and for those connections as well?
We've had a couple of meetings actually. We used Screwfix were kind enough to let us use one of their meeting rooms. So we invited all of the members, businesses to participate. So it's not sort of an exclusive offering, but in fairness, initially it was to bring an understanding to them about the types of work that we would do, but also to tell them what we were doing. So we do things like traffic monitoring, and we wanted to understand when their peak times were, because obviously it's a 24-hour distribution centre, as well as having other businesses up there. So, you know, we will be building at the back of Fradley Business Park, sort of in that behind Screwfix space, if you like. So there are small businesses. I know of a cafe and a chip shop up on Fradley Park near to the co-op. So I think there's a curry house there as well. So, you know, there's a cafe at the racetrack. There's the racetrack for entertainment. So there's things there, opportunities there for our staff to go and use, as well as, us to be able to tell the companies about the work we're doing, so they can plan their logistics, but also in case they're concerned about staff getting to and from Fradley Park for work. So there's all sorts of reasons why it's a benefit for us. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. I just got a question from Ross Fellows. So I represent a company that provides training and apprenticeships based in Birmingham. Would it be appropriate for us to register on this scheme? Vic, if I could bring you in on that one, just give us a bit of an indication around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So all our contractors have targets around kind of the number of apprenticeships and kind of skilled workers that they'll need around training. So that so all that is set in the contract. So they have to do that, and then they have to pass that down through contractors. So they'll be looking for businesses and groups that can help them reach those targets. So absolutely. And if there's particular focus, I can if I can get Ross's details, I can give him direct contact to someone who particularly focuses on that area to see if there is any opportunities at the moment, or if that's something that will be coming a bit further down the line. But I know at the moment they are looking for, there's all these there's a lot of job opportunities, and there's a lot of things that they're doing around training and upskilling local people in the area, as well as having to bring lots of apprenticeships and apprentices on board as well. So definitely, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, no, thanks for that. I think I appreciate that. I just wanted to bring in David. David, as we wait for a couple more questions, it looks like there's one or two coming in. David, obviously, Vic, as a Lichfieldian, if that's the right word, mentioned the festivals and those sort of tourism sites. Again, socially distanced and safely, regarding that. But how important is that awareness for a lot of the tourism sites in the centre of Lichfield and surrounding areas in Tamworth as well? How important is that going to be for people to be aware of some of those areas?
Again, I think it's another critical one where, again, COVID-19, we still are seeing things unwind as to how we're actually going to cope and react safely to this pandemic. So I think, again, it's making sure that people have an awareness of exactly what's going on and an appreciation for the local area as well. Workers who come to work in Staffordshire will want to know a bit more about the local area, and they want to be welcomed, and they certainly will be. And I know, a lot of our festivals have either been postponed or cancelled, certainly for this year. So as soon as we get the go-ahead to reinstate them in whatever safe way we can, we absolutely will make sure that we, encourage and welcome as many visitors as we can, and we absolutely would welcome those people who are working in the surrounding area.
Absolutely. Okay, no, that's great, David. Just last pick up, I suppose, from Chris and Vic to end it. I'm conscious of the time. We're at 1 minute to go. So just quickly, Chris, I suppose, what's the one thing you would say to someone watching this, this webinar who is perhaps community based, not necessarily from business point of view? What would be your advice to them to benefit from the project?
Probably two things. One would be to sign up to the local website so they can have an understanding of the work that's coming. And secondly, just to think about some of the community organisations that you might be involved in, or groups of business organisations, and really try and take advantage of that community funding or business funding, because like I say, I'm local, Victoria's local. We would love to see Staffordshire and the Midlands benefit in the long term from some of these opportunities. So yeah, take a look at the funding site, take a look at the HS2 in your area site.
Wonderful.
And if you've got any questions, contact HS2. Don't wonder or worry. Contact us, and we'll give you the facts.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Thanks, Chris. And Vic, just to finish off from a business point of view.
From business point of view, it would be make sure you kind of sign up and register with the business engagement team. If we don't know you're there, we don't know what your offer is, we can't make sure that we're pushing our contractors to use local businesses, and that you don't miss out on those opportunities. So kind of make sure that you understand how your business could get involved, make sure that you're registered so that you hear about all those opportunities, and yeah, just make sure you're engaged with us, because there'll be lots of different opportunities that will be coming over a number of years. So at different stages of the project, we'll be needing different things. So whilst there might not be something straight away for you, if you're registered and we know you're there, we can make sure that when that time comes, we get in touch, and that you're kind of in the loop.
No, thanks, Vic. Really appreciate that. David, thanks so much as well for your input from the Lichfield City Centre point of view. Thanks to the questions that were asked. Thanks to the people that were involved. I've seen Clive Paul as well, who's our Lichfield and Tamworth Vice President, has worked. A quick note to Clive. He's worked very well with me and Vic in keeping us on the straight and narrow, making sure we're engaging with the right people at the right time. So, Clive, thank you for your support on that as well. And yeah, we'll sort of. Really, the Lichfield and Tamworth Chamber do want to be, at the forefront alongside HS2 and the other sort of organisations in the area to ensure that our businesses do see some genuine economic benefit from the project. So again, if you've got any questions, please get in touch. I love the contact details for all the contractors, purchasing team, so I'll expect at least 30 emails each from all those people as the afternoons go.
They're not going to like me for that, but
no, I love that. That's really good, and again, open and clear in terms of how you need to do it. So, Vic, Chris, David, thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Just as a finish, we will be putting this up on YouTube, so if you have missed or need the slides or anything like that, will be sent afterwards. And again, I suppose the key one, tell people around the area who aren't on this call that there is some opportunity there. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time, and speak soon.